The smoke was black and thick, pouring from the second-floor windows of the beach house like a living thing. Brielle Washington stood on the sidewalk, her small hands gripping the metal fence as flames licked up the wooden siding. Inside, someone was screaming. "There's a little girl in there," a woman shouted, her phone pressed to her ear. "Yes, second floor. Please hurry." Adults stood in clusters, faces pale, eyes wide. They whispered to each other and looked at the fire and did nothing. The screaming got louder, higher pitched, desperate. Brielle's heart pounded in her chest. She was only 8 years old, wearing her faded purple shorts and a t-shirt with a stain on the collar. Her mother was working double shifts at the hotel downtown and wouldn't be home until late. Brielle had been walking back from the corner store with a bag of chips when she heard the screams. "Someone has to do something," a man said, but he didn't move. None of them moved. The little girl's voice cracked. "Help me. Please. I can't breathe." Brielle dropped her chips. Her legs moved before her brain could catch up. She ducked under the fence and ran across the lawn toward the house. Behind her, people yelled, "Stop. Kid, stop. Someone grab her." But Brielle was small and fast. She reached the front door and turned the handle. It was hot but not locked. The door swung open and smoke billowed out, making her cough. She pulled her shirt up over her nose and mouth and went inside. The heat hit her like a wall. The air was gray and bitter. She couldn't see more than a few feet ahead. The stairs were to her left. She remembered that from walking past this house every day on her way to school. "Where are you?" Brielle shouted, her voice muffled by her shirt. "Up here. I'm up here." The voice was weak now, fading. Brielle grabbed the railing and climbed. Each step felt like it took forever. The smoke was thicker up here, and she had to get down on her hands and knees to breathe. She crawled down the hallway, feeling along the wall. Her eyes burned and watered. "Keep talking," Brielle called out. "I need to find you." "I'm scared," the girl whimpered. Brielle followed the sound to a bedroom at the end of the hall. The door was closed. She reached up and turned the handle. Inside, a little girl with blonde hair and a pink dress sat huddled in the corner, tears streaming down her soot-covered face. "Come on," Brielle said, crawling to her. "We have to go now." The girl was frozen, eyes unfocused. Brielle grabbed her hand and pulled. The girl didn't move. "Please," Brielle begged. "We have to go or we'll both die." Something in Brielle's voice must have broken through because the girl blinked and nodded. They crawled together back into the hallway. The smoke was worse now. Brielle couldn't see anything. She just followed the wall, pulling the girl behind her. Her left arm brushed against something hot. Metal. A radiator maybe. Pain shot through her skin but she didn't let go of the girl's hand. They reached the stairs and half crawled, half slid down. The front door was still open, a rectangle of light in the gray. "Almost there," Brielle whispered. They stumbled out onto the lawn just as the fire trucks pulled up. Sirens wailed. People rushed toward them. Someone wrapped a blanket around Brielle's shoulders. Someone else took the little girl. Brielle's arm throbbed and when she looked down, she saw red, blistered skin. The world tilted sideways and everything went dark. Would you risk everything to save someone you'd never met? Drop a comment below and tell me what you would have done in Brielle's place. And if you want to see how this story ends, hit that subscribe button right now. Brielle's eyes opened slowly. The ceiling above her was white and dotted with small tiles. Everything smelled like chemicals and something else she couldn't name. Clean. Sterile. Her left arm felt like it was still on fire, wrapped tight in white bandages from her wrist to her elbow. "Baby. Oh, thank God. Thank God." Her mother's face appeared above her, eyes red and swollen from crying. Tabitha Washington looked exhausted, still wearing her work uniform from the hotel, her name tag slightly crooked. "Mama." Brielle's voice came out scratchy and weak. "I'm here, baby. I'm right here." Tabitha pressed her hand to Brielle's forehead, smoothing back her hair. "What were you thinking? Running into a fire like that? You could have died." "The girl," Brielle whispered. "Is she okay?" Before Tabitha could answer, there was a soft knock on the door. A tall white man in an expensive dark suit stepped inside. He had graying hair at his temples and tired lines around his blue eyes. Behind him stood a police officer and a woman in a white coat with a stethoscope around her neck. "Ms. Washington? I'm Jonathan Pierce." His voice was deep but gentle. "This is my daughter's room, but I wanted to come see the young lady who saved her life." Tabitha stood up quickly, wiping her eyes. "Mr. Pierce. I'm so sorry, I didn't know this was a private room. They just brought us here and—" "Please, don't apologize." Jonathan held up his hand. "I arranged for Brielle to be here. It's the least I could do." He turned to look at Brielle, and his eyes got shiny. "My daughter Savannah is alive because of your girl. Because of her courage. Is Savannah okay?" Brielle asked again. "She is. Thanks to you. Some smoke inhalation, but she's going to be fine." Jonathan walked closer to the bed. "The doctors tell me you have second-degree burns on your arm. You'll need treatment and physical therapy." "We'll figure it out," Tabitha said quickly, but her voice shook. Everyone in the room knew what that meant. It meant payment plans and second jobs and things not getting figured out at all. "I'd like to cover all of Brielle's medical expenses," Jonathan said. "Everything. No bills, no coparis, nothing." Tabitha's mouth opened but no sound came out. "Mr. Pierce, that's too much," she finally managed. "We can't." "You can," he said firmly. "And you will. Your daughter saved my child. My only child. There's no amount of money that equals that, but I can at least make sure she gets the best care possible." The doctor, who had been standing quietly by the door, stepped forward. "I'm Dr. Susan Cole. I specialize in pediatric burn treatment. With proper care, Brielle should heal completely with minimal scarring." "See?" Jonathan looked at Tabitha. "The best. Please let me do this." Tabitha looked at Brielle, then back at Jonathan. Tears spilled down her cheeks. "Okay," she whispered. "Okay. Thank you. Thank you so much." Jonathan nodded. "I'll have my assistant handle all the paperwork. You just focus on getting your daughter better." Over the next few days, Brielle stayed in the hospital. Nurses came in every few hours to change her bandages and check her vitals. The pain medication made her sleepy, but when she was awake, her mother was always there, reading to her or holding her good hand. On the third day, a little blonde girl peeked around the door frame. She had a bandage on her forehead and clutched a stuffed rabbit to her chest. "Can I come in?" she asked in a small voice. "Savannah." Jonathan appeared behind his daughter, his hand on her shoulder. Savannah walked slowly to Brielle's bed. "You saved me," she said. "Thank you." Brielle smiled. "You're welcome. Do you want to be friends?" Savannah held out the stuffed rabbit. "You can have Mr. Hoppy. He makes me feel better when I'm scared." Brielle took the rabbit with her good hand. "I'd like to be friends." Jonathan watched the two girls with an expression Brielle couldn't quite read. It looked like sadness and happiness mixed together. "I think," he said quietly, "this is just the beginning." 1 week after the fire, Jonathan Pierce returned to the hospital. This time he brought 2 people with him, a woman in a grey pantsuit carrying a leather briefcase and a man with glasses who also had a stack of folders tucked under his arm. Brielle was sitting up in bed, her arm still bandaged but healing well according to Dr. Cole. Tabitha was in the chair beside her, looking nervous as the group filed into the room. "Ms. Washington, Brielle." Jonathan gestured to his companions. "This is Rachel Hoffman, my attorney, and Dennis Liu from my company's Human Resources Department." Tabitha's face went pale. "Is something wrong? Are we in trouble?" No, nothing like that." Jonathan pulled up a chair and sat down so he was at eye level with both of them. "I've been thinking a lot this past week. About what Brielle did. About courage and sacrifice. And about how I can help beyond just medical bills." Rachel opened her briefcase and pulled out several documents. "Mr. Pierce would like to propose a comprehensive support package for your family." "I don't understand," Tabitha said. Jonathan leaned forward. "You work as a housekeeper at the Grand Harbor Hotel, correct? Long hours, minimum wage plus tips." Tabitha nodded slowly. And you're raising Brielle alone. Another nod. I want to offer you a position at Pierce Technologies. Administrative assistant in our community outreach department. The pay is $60,000 a year with full benefits, including health insurance, dental, vision, and a retirement plan. Tabitha's hand flew to her mouth. Additionally, Jonathan continued, I'm setting up an education fund for Brielle. It will cover private school tuition through high school and a full ride to any college she chooses. Mr. Pierce. Tabitha's voice broke. I know it's a lot to take in, he said gently. But there's more. I've purchased a 3-bedroom house in the Riverside neighborhood. It's yours, no mortgage, no rent. Property taxes and insurance are paid for the next 10 years. Brielle looked at her mother. Tabitha was crying, her whole body shaking with silent sobs. Why are you doing this? Tabitha asked through her tears. This is too much. We're nobody. You're not nobody. Jonathan's voice was fierce. Your daughter risked her life for mine. She didn't hesitate. She didn't think about herself. She just acted. That kind of person deserves every opportunity in the world. Dennis stepped forward with his folders. I have all the employment paperwork here. The job starts whenever you're ready. There's also information about the house, the education fund, and contact information for our benefits coordinator. Rachel placed another set of papers on the rolling table beside Brielle's bed. These documents outline everything Mr. Pierce mentioned. You should review them, and if you have any questions or want your own lawyer to look them over, that's completely fine. Tabitha stared at the papers like they might disappear if she blinked. Ms. Washington? Jonathan said softly. I'm not trying to overwhelm you. I just want to help. Please let me do this. Tabitha looked at Brielle. Her daughter's eyes were bright and hopeful. Then she looked back at Jonathan and nodded. Yes, she whispered. Yes. We accept. Thank you. Thank you so much. Jonathan smiled, and it was the first real smile Brielle had seen on his face. No, thank you. Both of you. Rachel walked Tabitha through the paperwork, explaining each section in simple terms. The employment contract was straightforward. The house deed was already in Tabitha's name, just waiting for signatures. The education fund was set up as a trust with Brielle as the beneficiary. When can we see the house? Brielle asked. As soon as you're discharged, Jonathan said. Dr. Cole says that should be in the next day or two. I've already had it furnished based on what my assistant thought a young girl might like. If you hate it, we can change everything. I won't hate it, Brielle said confidently. Jonathan laughed. I hope not. That evening, after everyone had left and it was just Brielle and her mother again, Tabitha held her daughter's good hand tight. This is going to change everything, she said. Our whole lives are different now. Is that okay? Brielle asked. More than okay, baby. More than okay. The house was on Maple Street, a quiet block lined with oak trees and tidy lawns. It was a 2-story colonial with blue shutters and a front porch complete with a wooden swing. When the car pulled up, Brielle pressed her face against the window, her eyes going wide. This is ours, she breathed. Jonathan, who had driven them himself, smiled. All yours. They climbed out of the car. Tabitha stood on the sidewalk, staring up at the house like she was afraid it might vanish. Her hands twisted the strap of her purse. Come on, Mama. Brielle tugged at her mother's hand. Let's go inside. The front door was painted red. Jonathan handed Tabitha a set of keys. Go ahead. It's your home now. Tabitha's hand shook as she unlocked the door. It swung open to reveal a bright entryway with polished hardwood floors and a staircase leading to the second floor. To the left was a living room with a comfortable-looking grey couch, a coffee table, and a television mounted on the wall. To the right was a dining room with a table that could seat 6. Oh my God, Tabitha whispered. They walked through the first floor. The kitchen had modern appliances, white cabinets, and granite countertops. There was a small office space with a desk and bookshelves. French doors led out to a backyard with a wooden playset. Upstairs, there were 3 bedrooms. The master bedroom had a queen-sized bed with a cream-colored duvet. The bathroom attached to it had both a shower and a tub. This one's yours, baby," Tabitha said, pushing open the door to the second bedroom. Brielle gasped. The walls were painted a soft lavender. There was a twin bed with a purple comforter covered in silver stars. A bookshelf held new books still in their wrappers. A desk sat under the window with a cup full of colored pencils and a stack of blank notebooks. In the corner was a beanbag chair and a basket of stuffed animals. "It's perfect," Brielle said. Jonathan leaned against the doorframe, watching her explore. "I'm glad you like it." Savannah helped pick out some of the things. She wanted to make sure you'd be comfortable. Over the next few weeks, Tabitha started her new job at Pierce Technologies. The office was bright and clean, nothing like the hotel where she used to work. Her co-workers were friendly. Her boss, a kind woman named Helen, took time to train her properly and praised her attention to detail. For the first time in years, Tabitha didn't come home exhausted and defeated. She came home energized, with stories about her day and ideas for projects she was working on. Brielle's arm healed slowly but surely. Dr. Cole was right about the scarring being minimal. By the end of the month, Brielle only needed a light bandage during the day and could take it off at night. "You're a tough kid," the doctor said during one of their final appointments. "Most adults don't handle burns this well." "I had good help," Brielle replied. The week before school started, Jonathan came by the house with Savannah. The two men unloaded boxes from the back of his car, school supplies, new clothes, a backpack with Brielle's initials embroidered on it. "You're both enrolled at Westfield Academy," Jonathan explained as the girls tore through the boxes excitedly. "It's a good school. Small class sizes, excellent teachers." Tabitha looked worried. "Will Brielle fit in? Those kids come from money." "So does she now," Jonathan said simply. "And besides, she has Savannah. They'll look out for each other." The first day of school was bright and sunny. Tabitha drove Brielle to campus in the used car Jonathan had insisted they needed. Westfield Academy looked more like a college than an elementary school, with brick buildings and manicured lawns. Savannah was waiting by the front entrance, bouncing on her toes. "Brielle, we're in the same class. Mrs. Patterson told my dad yesterday." The two girls walked into the building hand in hand. Tabitha watched until they disappeared inside, then drove to work with tears in her eyes. Happy tears, this time. That evening at dinner, Brielle talked non-stop about her day. Her teacher was nice. The classroom had computers for every student. They were going to learn about the solar system in science. She'd made two new friends named Amy and Jordan. "I'm so proud of you," Tabitha said. "I'm happy, Mama," Brielle said. "For the first time in a long time, I'm really happy." Tabitha reached across the table and squeezed her daughter's hand. "Me too, baby. Me too." 3 months into the school year, Brielle and Savannah were inseparable. They sat together at lunch, partnered up for every project, and spent most afternoons at one house or the other doing homework and playing games. "You coming over today?" Savannah asked as they walked out of their classroom on a Friday afternoon. "Can I, Mama?" Brielle looked up at Tabitha, who had just arrived to pick her up. "If it's okay with Mr. Pierce," Tabitha said. "Dad's always okay with it," Savannah said confidently. "He likes having Brielle around." They drove to the Pierce estate, which was 20 minutes outside of town. The house was massive, 3 stories of white stone with columns at the front entrance. The driveway curved through perfectly maintained gardens. Brielle had been here half a dozen times, but it still took her breath away. Jonathan met them at the door, dressed casually in jeans and a sweater. The dynamic duo returns. "How was school?" "Good," both girls said in unison, then laughed. "We're going to play in the game room," Savannah announced, already pulling Brielle toward the stairs. "Wait," Jonathan said. "Brielle, your mom mentioned you like to read. I have something for you." He led her to his study, a room lined with bookshelves from floor to ceiling. From his desk, he picked up a leather-bound book. "This was my wife's favorite when she was your age," he said quietly. "I thought you might enjoy it." Brielle took the book carefully. The title was embossed in gold, The Secret Garden. "Thank you," she said. "I'll take really good care of it." "I know you will." Upstairs, the game room had a pool table, a vintage arcade machine, and an entire wall of board games and puzzles. Savannah pulled out a massive jigsaw puzzle of a castle. "This is going to take us forever," Brielle said, looking at the 1,000-piece box. "That's the fun part," Savannah replied. As they worked on the puzzle, Savannah got quiet. "Finally," she said, "can I tell you something?" "Of course." "I miss my mom," Savannah whispered. "She died 2 years ago. Cancer." Brielle reached over and held her friend's hand. "I'm sorry. Dad doesn't talk about her much. I think it makes him too sad. But sometimes I want to talk about her, you know? I don't want to forget her." "You won't forget," Brielle said. "And I'll listen whenever you want to talk." Savannah smiled through her tears. "That's why I wanted to be your friend. When you saved me from the fire, I knew you were special. You're brave and kind and you don't care about money or big houses or any of that stuff. You're special too," Brielle said. "Even without all this." She gestured around the room. They went back to the puzzle. An hour later, Jonathan brought up sandwiches and lemonade. "How's it going?" he asked. "We found all the corner pieces," Savannah reported. Jonathan sat down on the floor with them. "Mind if I help?" "Really?" Savannah looked surprised. "Really?" The three of them worked on the puzzle together until the sun started to set. Tabitha arrived to pick up Brielle, and Jonathan walked them out to the car. "Thank you for letting her come over so often," Tabitha said. "I know you must be busy." "Never too busy for this," Jonathan replied. "Honestly, having Brielle around has been good for Savannah. Good for both of us, really. This house has been quiet for too long." As they drove home, Brielle stared out the window at the passing streetlights. "What are you thinking about?" Tabitha asked. "I'm thinking that maybe we were supposed to be there that day," Brielle said. "At the fire. Maybe everything that happened was supposed to happen." Tabitha didn't respond right away. Finally, she said, "Maybe you're right, baby. Maybe you're right." At school, other kids started to notice how much time Brielle and Savannah spent together. 2 boys named Tommy and Jesse approached them at recess one day. "How come you get to be friends with Savannah Pierce?" Tommy asked Brielle. "Her dad's like the richest guy in the state." "Because we're friends," Brielle said simply. "What does money have to do with it?" "Everyone knows you're only friends because her dad feels sorry for you," Jesse added. Savannah stepped forward, her face red. "That's not true. Brielle saved my life. She's the bravest person I know. And she's my best friend." The boys backed off, muttering. Later, Savannah apologized. "I'm sorry about them," she said. "People can be mean." "It's okay," Brielle said. "I know why we're friends. That's all that matters." But that night, lying in her purple bedroom, Brielle wondered if maybe Jesse was right. Maybe Jonathan only helped them because he felt guilty. Maybe none of this would last. She pushed the thought away and picked up The Secret Garden. Within pages, she was lost in the story. Are you someone who believes everything happens for a reason? Comment below and tell me if you think this friendship was meant to be. Don't forget to subscribe to see what happens next. Winter came to Riverside with cold winds and early darkness. Christmas lights went up on houses, and stores played carols that made Tabitha hum while she cooked dinner. One Saturday in mid-December, Jonathan invited Tabitha and Brielle to go Christmas tree shopping with him and Savannah. They drove to a tree farm on the edge of town where rows of evergreens stretched across snowy fields. "Pick whichever one you want," Jonathan told the girls. "No height limit." Brielle and Savannah ran ahead, examining each tree seriously before moving to the next. Tabitha walked beside Jonathan, her hands stuffed in her coat pockets. "This is nice," she said. "Thank you for including us." "I should be thanking you," Jonathan replied. "This is the first year since my wife died that the holidays haven't felt completely awful." Tabitha glanced at him. He was staring out at the trees, his expression distant. Savannah told Brielle about her mother. Tabitha said carefully, "I'm sorry for your loss." "Catherine was everything," Jonathan said quietly. "Smart, funny, warm. She made everyone around her better. When she got sick, it happened so fast. 6 months from diagnosis to, well, that must have been terrible." "It was. And afterward, I threw myself into work. 14-hour days, 7 days a week. I told myself I was providing for Savannah, securing her future. But really, I was just hiding. He paused. The fire was a wake-up call. I almost lost her. If Brielle hadn't been there. But she was, Tabitha said firmly. And everyone's okay now. Jonathan looked at her. You're right. And I'm trying to do better. Be more present. Actually live instead of just existing. This one, Savannah shouted, waving from a massive tree. This is perfect. Jonathan laughed. That thing won't fit through the front door. It will in our house, Brielle pointed out. Our ceilings aren't as high. Then you should have it, Savannah decided. We'll find a different one. They ended up getting 2 trees. A slightly smaller but still impressive tree for the Pierce house, and the enormous one for the Washington home. The farm workers tied them to the roof of Jonathan's SUV, and they drove back singing carols off-key. That evening, Jonathan and the girls helped Tabitha set up their tree in the living room. Brielle brought down the box of ornaments they'd had for years, cheap plastic balls and handmade decorations from when she was in kindergarten. These are wonderful, Jonathan said, hanging a paper snowflake carefully on a branch. They're old, Brielle said, a little embarrassed. They're memories, he corrected. That's what matters. After the tree was decorated and lit up, Tabitha made hot chocolate. They sat in the living room, the 4 of them, talking and laughing. Jonathan told stories about Catherine, happy memories that made Savannah smile. Tabitha talked about her own mother, who had passed away when Brielle was a baby. I wish I could have met her, Brielle said. She would have loved you, Tabitha replied. She always said family was everything. She was right, Jonathan said, and something in his voice made Tabitha look at him sharply. The weeks passed. Jonathan came by more often, sometimes just to have dinner or help Brielle with a school project. He fixed the leaky faucet in the kitchen without being asked. He showed up with groceries when a snowstorm hit. One evening, after Brielle and Savannah had gone upstairs to watch a movie, Jonathan and Tabitha sat at the kitchen table drinking coffee. Can I ask you something? Jonathan said. Sure. Why haven't you dated since Brielle's father left? Tabitha blinked, surprised by the directness. I don't know. No time, I guess. Working 2 jobs doesn't leave much room for a social life. And I needed to focus on Brielle. And now I have time, she admitted. But I'm out of practice. And honestly, I'm scared. What if I make a mistake? What if I let someone into our lives who isn't good for Brielle? Jonathan was quiet for a moment. What if you let someone in who's very good for both of you? Tabitha's breath caught. Jonathan. I'm not suggesting anything, he said quickly. Just thinking out loud. But being around you and Brielle these past few months has reminded me what it feels like to be part of a family. To have people who care about you for who you are, not what you can give them. We do care about you, Tabitha said softly. Both of us. You've changed our lives in ways I can never repay. You already have, he replied. Every day. They sat in comfortable silence, the only sound the faint laughter of the girls upstairs. Outside, snow began to fall again, coating the world in white. 3 days after Christmas, Jonathan received a phone call that changed everything. He was at his office when his head of security, a former FBI agent named Peter Grant, knocked on his door. We have a problem, Peter said, his face grim. What kind of problem? The fire. The one at the beach house. Peter put a thick folder on Jonathan's desk. The investigators closed it as accidental, but I wasn't satisfied. I hired a private firm to dig deeper. Jonathan's stomach tightened. What did they find? It was arson. Deliberately set. And it wasn't random. The room felt suddenly cold. Jonathan opened the folder and began reading. The report was detailed and damning. Accelerants had been used. The fire started in the garage, spreading quickly through the structure. Security footage from a neighbor's camera showed a person in dark clothing approaching the house 2 hours before the fire started. Who? Jonathan asked, his voice hard. Who did this? That's where it gets complicated, Peter said. The person who actually set the fire was a hired contractor. Low-level criminal with a history of insurance fraud. He's already in custody on another charge. But when we pressed him, he gave up his employer.
Who?
Peter hesitated. Richard Dunmore. Jonathan felt like he'd been punched. Richard Dunmore was his business partner, the man who'd helped him build Pierce Technologies from the ground up. They'd been friends for over a decade. That doesn't make sense, Jonathan said. Why would Richard burn down my property? Insurance fraud, Peter replied. The beach house was in the company name, remember? We'd taken out a policy on it for corporate retreats. $2 million. Richard was planning to claim the insurance money and hide it offshore. He's been siphoning funds from the company for months. Jonathan sat down heavily. He knew we were going to be there. I told him about the vacation. He claims he didn't know, Peter said. Says he thought the house would be empty. But that's thin. Very thin. Savannah almost died, Jonathan said quietly. My daughter almost died because of greed. I've already contacted the police. They're building a case now. With the evidence we have, Richard will likely face multiple felony charges. Arson, fraud, attempted manslaughter. Jonathan stared at the folder. Inside were photos, financial records, witness statements. Everything pointed to Richard's guilt. I need to tell Tabitha and Brielle, he said. They deserve to know the truth. Are you sure that's wise? Peter asked. This could reopen trauma. They deserve to know, Jonathan repeated firmly. That evening, he drove to the Washington house. Tabitha opened the door, took one look at his face, and knew something was wrong. What happened? Can we talk? All three of us. They sat in the living room. Brielle curled up next to her mother on the couch, sensing the seriousness. Jonathan explained everything, the investigation, the arson, Richard's betrayal. So it wasn't an accident. Brielle. Retry. OS. Continue. Asked, her voice small. No, Jonathan said. It wasn't. Someone set that fire on purpose. Tabitha pulled Brielle closer. But why? Why would someone do that? Money, Jonathan said bitterly. Richard wanted insurance money. He didn't care who got hurt. Did he know you and Savannah were there? Tabitha asked. He claims he didn't. The police are investigating. Either way, he's responsible for what happened. Brielle was quiet for a long moment. Then she said, I'm glad I was there. Even knowing it wasn't an accident. I'm still glad. Jonathan's eyes got shiny. Me too, sweetheart. Me too. What happens now? Tabitha asked. Richard will be arrested. There will be a trial. The company will survive, but it'll take work to rebuild trust with investors and clients. He rubbed his face. I'm sorry to bring this to your door. I just thought you should know. Don't apologize, Tabitha said. We're in this together. Whatever you need, we're here. Jonathan looked at her for a long moment. Thank you. That means more than you know. Over the next few weeks, the news broke publicly. Richard Dunmore was arrested and charged with arson, fraud, and reckless endangerment. The story made headlines. Tech billionaire's partner betrays him, endangers children. Reporters tried to contact Brielle and Tabitha, but Jonathan's lawyers shut that down fast. He made a single public statement praising Brielle's bravery and asking for privacy for everyone involved. At school, some kids whispered and pointed. But Savannah stayed right beside Brielle, and eventually, the attention faded. One afternoon, Brielle and Savannah were in the game room working on another puzzle when Savannah said, My dad talks about your mom a lot. Brielle looked up. He does. Yeah. He says she's strong and kind and that she raised you right. Savannah fitted two pieces together. I think he likes her. Likes her? Brielle asked. Maybe. Savannah smiled. Would that be weird? Brielle thought about it. I don't think so. Would it be weird for you? No, Savannah said. I think it would be nice. We could be real sisters. We're already real sisters, Brielle said. In all the ways that count. Savannah reached over and hugged her. You're right. We are. The investigation into Richard Dunmore continued through January and into February. Jonathan spent long hours with lawyers and police detectives, building an airtight case. The deeper they dug, the worse it got. Richard hadn't just planned the fire. He'd been systematically stealing from Pierce Technologies for nearly 2 years. Fake vendor accounts, inflated expense reports, offshore shell companies. The total was close to $8 million. How did I not see it? Jonathan asked Peter during one meeting. We worked together every day. People see what they want to see, Peter replied. He was your friend. You trusted him. That trust almost killed my daughter. The preliminary hearing was set for mid-February. Jonathan would have to testify, laying out the timeline and the evidence. The prosecutor was confident about a conviction. Richard's lawyer might try to make a deal, she told Jonathan. Plead to lesser charges in exchange for returning the money and avoiding trial. No deals, Jonathan said flatly. He goes to trial. He faces every charge. The prosecutor nodded. Understood. Meanwhile, life continued. Brielle's arm had healed completely, leaving only a faint pink scar that Dr. Cole said would fade over time. She was thriving at Westfield Academy, making the honor roll and joining the art club. Tabitha was excelling at Pierce Technologies. Helen had praised her work ethic and promoted her to senior administrative assistant with a raise. One Saturday morning, Jonathan showed up at the Washington house with paint samples. What are these for? Tabitha asked, letting him in. The office space downstairs, he said. I was thinking it's not really being used. Brielle mentioned you like to paint. Actual painting, not walls. So I thought maybe we could convert it into an art studio for you. Tabitha stared at him. Jonathan, you've already done so much. I want to do this, he said. Please. Let me. She took the paint samples, flipping through the colors. Okay. But I'm helping with the work. Deal. They spent the day transforming the office. They moved out the desk and bookshelves, patched holes in the walls, and painted everything a warm cream color. Jonathan installed better lighting and brought in a large easel he'd found at an art supply store. This is too much, Tabitha kept saying. It's not enough, he kept replying. By evening, the room was finished. Tabitha stood in the doorway, tears streaming down her face. I haven't painted in 10 years, she admitted. I gave it up when Brielle was born. No time, no money for supplies, no space. Now you have space, Jonathan said. And time. And if you need supplies, just say the word. Tabitha turned to him. They were standing close, closer than usual. Why are you doing all this? Because I care about you, he said simply. Both of you. You've become so important to me and Savannah. I can't imagine our lives without you in them. Jonathan. Her voice was barely a whisper. I'm not asking for anything, he said quickly. I just needed you to know. Before Tabitha could respond, Brielle and Savannah came thundering down the stairs, laughing about something. Can we order pizza? Savannah asked. Sure, Jonathan said, stepping back. Let's order pizza. That night, after Jonathan and Savannah had left, Brielle climbed into her mother's lap on the couch. Do you like Mr. Pierce? She asked. Tabitha was quiet for a moment. I do. He's a good man. Do you like him? Where did you learn that phrase? Savannah. Brielle grinned. She says her dad talks about you all the time. Does she now? Mama, would it be okay? If you and Mr. Pierce liked each other? I think it would be nice. Tabitha held her daughter close. Let's just see what happens, okay? No rushing anything. Okay, Brielle agreed. But for the record, I vote yes. Tabitha laughed despite herself. Noted. The week of the preliminary hearing arrived. Jonathan was tense and distracted. Tabitha offered to come to the courthouse for support, but he declined. This is something I need to do alone, he said. But thank you. The hearing lasted 2 days. Richard Dunmore sat at the defense table looking smaller than Jonathan remembered. When it was Jonathan's turn to testify, he laid out the facts clearly and without emotion. The evidence spoke for itself. At the end of the second day, the judge ruled there was sufficient cause for trial. Richard would face all charges. His bail was set at $2 million, which he couldn't make. He'd stay in jail until trial. As Jonathan left the courthouse, reporters swarmed him. He made a brief statement. Justice is being served. That's all I have to say. He drove straight to the Washington house. Tabitha opened the door and saw his face. How did it go? He's going to trial, Jonathan said. It's not over yet, but it's a start. Come in, Tabitha said. I made soup. They ate dinner together, all four of them. The conversation was light, deliberately avoiding the day's stress. After the girls went upstairs, Jonathan helped Tabitha clean up. I keep thinking about what could have happened, he said quietly, drying a plate. If Brielle hadn't been there, if she hadn't been brave, Savannah would have died in that fire. But she didn't, Tabitha reminded him. Because Brielle was there. Because she did the right thing. I owe her everything, Jonathan said. You don't owe us anything, Tabitha replied firmly. What you've done for us is more than enough. More than we ever dreamed of. Jonathan set down the plate and turned to face her. What if I want to do more? Like what? He reached out and took her hand. Like be part of your lives. Really part of them. Not just as a friend or benefactor, but as something more. Tabitha's heart pounded. Jonathan, we come from different worlds. No, he said. We don't. We're both parents who love our children. We're both people trying to do right by the ones we care about. Money doesn't change that. I'm scared, she admitted. What if this doesn't work? What if we mess it up and it affects the girls? Then we'll figure it out together, he said. But I think we owe it to ourselves to try. Tabitha looked down at their joined hands. Then she looked up at him and smiled. Okay. Let's try. The trial of Richard Dunmore began in late March. It lasted 3 weeks and was covered extensively by local media. The evidence was overwhelming: financial records, security footage, testimony from the arsonist Richard had hired. Jonathan attended every day, sitting in the front row. Tabitha went with him when she could, and his presence seemed to steady him. The defense tried to argue that Richard hadn't known anyone would be in the house, that he'd only meant to commit insurance fraud, not endanger lives. But the prosecution painted a clear picture of a man consumed by greed who didn't care about the consequences. On the final day, the jury deliberated for less than 4 hours. They found Richard Dunmore guilty on all counts. The judge sentenced him to 15 years in prison, with the possibility of parole after 10. He was also ordered to repay the $8 million he'd stolen, though everyone knew that money was long gone. When the verdict was read, Jonathan felt a weight lift from his shoulders. It wasn't about revenge. It was about accountability. About making sure Richard faced the consequences of his actions. Outside the courthouse, he made another statement to the press. Today justice was served. But this case was never just about me or my company. It was about a little girl named Savannah who almost lost her life, and another little girl named Brielle who risked everything to save her. They are the real heroes of this story. Everything I do moving forward will be in their honor. 3 days after the trial ended, Jonathan called a company-wide meeting at Pierce Technologies. Every employee gathered in the main auditorium. Jonathan stood at the podium, looking out at the faces of people who'd stuck with the company through scandal and uncertainty. Thank you for being here, he began. The last few months have been difficult. We've faced betrayal, public scrutiny, and doubt. But we've survived. And we're going to do more than survive. We're going to thrive. He clicked a button and a presentation appeared on the screen behind him. I'm announcing the creation of the Brielle Washington Foundation for Youth Courage. This foundation will recognize and support young people who perform acts of extraordinary bravery. We'll provide scholarships, mentorship programs, and resources to help these kids reach their full potential. Applause filled the room. Jonathan waited for it to die down. But that's not all. I've been thinking about what matters. About legacy and purpose. Pierce Technologies has always been about innovation, but starting today, we're also about giving back. 10% of our annual profits will go to charitable causes voted on by our employees. You'll have a say in where that money goes. More applause, louder this time. None of this would have happened without the courage of one 8-year-old girl. Brielle Washington saw someone who needed help and she didn't hesitate. She didn't think about herself. She just acted. That's the kind of person I want to be. That's the kind of company I want to run. He paused, his voice getting thick with emotion. My daughter is alive today because of Brielle. And I will spend the rest of my life making sure the world is a better place because of what she did. Thank you all for your hard work and dedication. Let's build something we can be proud of. The standing ovation lasted 5 minutes. That evening, Jonathan invited the Washington family to dinner at his house. Christopher Pierce, Jonathan's father-in-law, was there too. He was a distinguished-looking man in his 70s with white hair and kind eyes. So you're the famous Brielle, Christopher said, shaking her hand solemnly. My granddaughter tells me you're the bravest person she knows. I just did what anyone would do, Brielle said, a little embarrassed. No, Christopher replied. Most people would have stood there and waited for someone else. You acted. That takes courage. At dinner, Jonathan explained the foundation to Brielle and Tabitha. I want you to be part of it, he said to Brielle. You don't have to do anything you're not comfortable with. But maybe you could meet with other kids who've done brave things. Share your experience. Help them feel less alone. I can do that, Brielle said. I'd like to. And Tabitha, Jonathan continued, I'd like you to sit on the foundation's board. Help us make decisions about who we support and how. I don't know anything about running a foundation, Tabitha protested. You know about raising a good human being, Jonathan said. That's more valuable than any business experience. Christopher raised his glass. To courage, to family, and to new beginnings. They all clinked glasses, even the girls with their lemonade. After dessert, Savannah pulled Brielle aside. My grandpa wants to talk to your mom and my dad alone. Want to go watch a movie? Sure, Brielle said. As the girls left, Christopher looked at Jonathan and Tabitha seriously. I'm going to be blunt, he said. You two are dancing around something. It's obvious to everyone, including the children. Tabitha blushed. Jonathan cleared his throat. Dad. Let me finish, Christopher said. Catherine was my daughter and I loved her dearly. But she's been gone 2 years. She wouldn't want you to be alone forever, Jonathan. And she'd approve of Tabitha. I can tell. Mr. Pierce, Tabitha started. Christopher, please. And I mean what I said. You're good for him. Good for Savannah. Don't let fear or propriety stop you from being happy. Jonathan and Tabitha looked at each other. He's right, Jonathan said quietly. I've been thinking about this for months. Tabitha, I care about you. Not because you're Brielle's mother or because of what happened. But because of who you are. You're strong and kind and real. You make me want to be better. I care about you too, Tabitha admitted. I just don't want to rush anything. Then we won't rush, Jonathan said. We'll take it slow. But let's stop pretending there's nothing here. Christopher smiled and stood up. I'm going to check on the girls. You two talk. After he left, Jonathan took Tabitha's hand across the table. So where do we start? She asked. How about dinner? He suggested. Just the two of us. A real date. Tabitha smiled. I'd like that. If someone changed your life forever, how would you repay them? Share your thoughts in the comments and make sure you're subscribed because the next chapter brings everything together. 1 year passed. A year of changes, growth, and healing. The Brielle Washington Foundation launched in September with a gala attended by local leaders and press. Brielle spoke briefly, her voice clear and strong, about why helping others mattered. The event raised $500,000 in its first night. Richard Dunmore's trial faded from headlines. He was serving his sentence at a federal prison 3 states away. Jonathan never thought about him anymore. Pierce Technologies recovered and then flourished. The 10% charitable giving program was a massive success, boosting both employee morale and public image. Jonathan was named Businessperson of the Year by the State Chamber of Commerce. But the biggest changes were personal. Jonathan and Tabitha dated slowly and carefully. Dinner dates turned into weekend trips. Separate houses became sleepovers with giggling girls in sleeping bags. Careful boundaries gave way to easy comfort. By Christmas, Jonathan had a drawer at Tabitha's house. By New Year's, Tabitha had a toothbrush at his. The girls were thrilled. They'd been planning this outcome since day one, they claimed, and were very smug about being right. On a Saturday in early April, exactly 1 year after the trial ended, Jonathan woke up knowing what he wanted to do. He called Christopher, who'd become a regular presence in all their lives. "I'm going to ask her today," Jonathan said. "About time," Christopher replied. "You have my blessing. You've had it for months." "I'm nervous." "Good. That means it matters." Jonathan had planned a picnic at Riverside Park. He picked up Tabitha at noon, telling her to dress casually. "Where are Brielle and Savannah?" she asked. "With my dad," Jonathan said. "They're in on it." "In on what?" He just smiled. The park was beautiful in spring. Flowers bloomed along the walking paths. The river sparkled in the sunlight. Jonathan had claimed a spot under a large willow tree, spreading out a blanket and unpacking a basket of food. They ate sandwiches and fruit, talking about everything and nothing. Tabitha laughed at his stories about disastrous business meetings. He listened intently as she described a new painting she was working on. After they finished eating, Jonathan stood up. "Walk with me," he asked. They strolled along the river path, their hands linked. Jonathan led her to a small wooden bridge that crossed a creek feeding into the main river. "This is nice," Tabitha said. "I didn't know this was here." "Savannah and I used to come here," Jonathan said. "After Catherine died. We'd walk and talk and try to make sense of everything. It's peaceful." "It is." He turned to face her, taking both her hands. "Tabitha, a year ago, I didn't think I'd ever feel whole again. I was going through the motions, taking care of Savannah, running my company, but I wasn't really living." "Jonathan, let me finish," he said gently. "Then you came into my life. You and Brielle. And everything changed. You showed me what courage really looks like. Not just in facing a fire, but in raising a child alone, in accepting help when it's offered, in opening your heart even when you're scared." Tears started running down Tabitha's face. "You've made me better," Jonathan continued. "You've made Savannah happier. You've made our house feel like a home again. And I don't want to go back to living without you." He reached into his pocket and pulled out a small velvet box. He opened it to reveal a simple diamond ring, elegant and understated. "Tabitha Washington, will you marry me?" Tabitha's hand flew to her mouth. She was crying and laughing at the same time. "Yes," she said. "Yes, absolutely yes." Jonathan slipped the ring onto her finger and pulled her into a kiss. When they finally broke apart, applause erupted around them. Brielle, Savannah, and Christopher emerged from hiding behind trees and bushes, all grinning. "You knew?" Tabitha asked Brielle. "For a week," Brielle said, running to hug her mother. "I helped pick the ring." "Me too," Savannah added, joining the hug. Christopher shook Jonathan's hand. "Well done, son." They celebrated with sparkling cider and cupcakes Christopher had packed. The girls chatted excitedly about being sisters officially, about being in the wedding, about what color dresses they'd wear. "Small ceremony," Tabitha said firmly. "Just family and close friends." "Whatever you want," Jonathan agreed. They set the date for June, giving them 2 months to plan. True to her word, Tabitha kept it simple. They'd marry in the backyard of the Washington house under the oak trees. Christopher would officiate since he was an ordained minister. The guest list was under 50 people. The girls were co-maids of honor, wearing matching lavender dresses. Tabitha wore a simple white dress she found at a boutique downtown. Jonathan wore a navy suit. On the morning of the wedding, Brielle helped her mother get ready. "Are you nervous?" she asked. "A little," Tabitha admitted. "But mostly I'm happy. Really, truly happy." "Me too," Brielle said. "I'm getting a dad and a sister. That's pretty great. You sure you're okay with all this? It's a big change." Brielle hugged her mother tight. "Mama, this is the best thing that's ever happened to us." "Well, second best. Saving Savannah is still number one." Tabitha laughed through her tears. "Don't mess up your makeup." We have pictures soon. The ceremony was beautiful. Christopher spoke about love, courage, and the families we build through choice. Jonathan and Tabitha exchanged vows they'd written themselves, promising to support each other, to be patient, to choose kindness even when things got hard. When Christopher said, "You may kiss your bride," and Jonathan did, the girls cheered so loudly that everyone laughed. The reception was in the backyard, catered by a local restaurant. There was dancing and cake and toasts that ranged from heartfelt to hilarious. Helen from Tabitha's work gave a speech about watching her blossom over the past year. Peter, Jonathan's head of security, told embarrassing stories about Jonathan being nervous before dates. Dr. Cole, who'd become a family friend, talked about Brielle's remarkable recovery. But the best speech came from the girls themselves. Brielle and Savannah stood up together, holding hands. "A year and a half ago, I was stuck in a burning house," Savannah said. "I thought I was going to die. Then Brielle saved me. I didn't know her," Brielle continued. "I just knew she needed help. And that was enough. We became friends right away," Savannah said. "Best friends. And then our parents fell in love," Brielle added. "Which we totally predicted, by the way." Everyone laughed. "So now we're sisters for real," Savannah finished. "And that makes us the luckiest girls in the world." They raised their glasses of sparkling cider. "To family," they said together. "To family," everyone echoed. As the sun set and the party wound down, Jonathan and Tabitha stood under the oak trees, watching Brielle and Savannah chase fireflies across the lawn. "Think we can do this?" Tabitha asked quietly. "Blend our families, balance everything?" "I know we can," Jonathan said. "Because we have something most people don't." "What's that?" "We know what really matters. Not money or status or any of that. Just love. Just showing up for each other every day." Tabitha leaned into him. "When did you get so wise?" "About a year and a half ago," he said. "When a brave little girl reminded me what courage looks like." They stood there in the twilight, surrounded by the people they loved, feeling more grateful than words could express. The fire that had brought them together was long extinguished, but the warmth it created would last a lifetime. Brielle ran over, breathless and smiling. "Mama, Savannah, and I want to know if we can have a campout in the backyard tonight." "On my wedding night?" Tabitha pretended to be shocked. "Please," both girls chorused. Jonathan laughed. "Why not? I'll set up the tent." As he walked away to get supplies, Tabitha held Brielle close. "I love you, baby girl." "I love you too, Mama." Brielle looked up at her mother. "We did good, didn't we?" "We did very good," Tabitha agreed. "The best." And in that moment, with her daughter in her arms, her new husband setting up a tent, and her new daughter collecting sticks for a campfire, Tabitha Washington knew she had everything she'd ever needed. Not because of money or a big house or any material thing. But because she had family. Real, true, chosen family. And that was worth more than all the wealth in the world. The end.